Good afternoon. This is Robert Cornicelli, National President for Veterans for America First. And I start a lot of these interviews off with the same introduction only because I'm always interviewing veterans, and it's an honor being the National President of Veterans for America First and a veteran, a retiree, to interview veterans for Congress. So I always start off with what an honor it is to have you, Lieutenant Colonel Haggard, to be here with me. Veterans for America First, our goal is to not only help veterans get into Congress, into the U.S. Senate, into any house, but to make sure that they're following or they're keeping the America First platform, but within that America First platform, they're pushing bills that help veterans. They're pushing bills that help military members. They're pushing bills that help guardsmen and law enforcement. And I was reading about you today, 11 years in the Marines, 11 years you just told me in the Air National Guard as AGR. You have a great record. You've been a legislator now for two terms?
Two terms,
Two
4 years.
terms. So, Lieutenant Colonel Craig Haggard, welcome.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I really do. Thank you.
Well, listen, it's our honor. Anytime someone like you with your record, with your resume runs, it's great for the country. It was great for Indiana, I'm sure. But we need you in Congress. You know as well as I know, veterans get the short end of the stick. I just
hmm
spent 4 hours at a doctor's office to get spinal cord stimulation and cervical spinal cord stimulation, the procedure done, not today, but to go over the double operation. And the VA didn't send over the right, not prescription, but um, authorization. So you
hmm
wait 6 months for these appointments, and the wrong authorization comes over. And only a guy like you and veterans like you, retirees like you, understand it's just not good for veterans to have to wait that long in pain, suffering, that affecting their families, only to go there and say, I have to set this up. It's going to be 6 more months. We
hmm
need you in Congress. This VA has got to be fixed. Um, and I know you're the guy to do it.
Well, I have personal experience with that. I'm an 80% disabled vet. Um, but I would say my most serious injury, which was aggravated by flying fighters, was a back injury, and it took 10 years with the VA to get that certification. And it was because of a simple, and you'll probably understand this. They kept coming back and saying, we don't have the paperwork, we're missing documents, and back and forth, only to find out about 8 years later that on my exit um, medical exam, the doctor at the VA forgot to fill out a form. But instead of them saying, "Hey, you're missing government form 1, 2, 3, 4," they just said, "Nah, we're missing something. So go on a fishing expedition, go on a treasure hunt." And it wasn't until I was a legislator and knew people that I received special attention. Now, how I do appreciate that. You shouldn't have to have my position to be helped. Number one, it should be streamlined. But number two, any veteran should be able to go in and they should help them the same way they help me. And that's frustrating. I do serve on the Veterans and Public Safety Committee in the State House. And actually, I'm working on a homeless veteran bill right now to have work with shelters to have beds set aside for those that are homeless once they go into treatment so they have a safe place at night. So we've passed a lot of good stuff here in Indiana, but you're right. I want to take that fight to DC.
Yeah, and then that's where the funding for veterans comes from. That
hmm
money goes down to the states, but we need more. And Veterans for America First, and I'd definitely like to discuss this with you. Are you familiar with the HALO Act out of Georgia and Florida?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
So HALO is hands off our law enforcement officers.
hmm
I drafted this bill back in 2017 or 18
Okay.
when I was in New York, but it was originally a 3 foot safety act for law enforcement officers. And
hmm
it was 2019. It came from the summer of love. I think it was 19, whatever the dates were. I got sick and tired of seeing these clowns and buffoons in the face of the cops with their phones, And
hmm
you as a Marine, you can't draw. If you have a weapon here, you can't get your weapon up if someone's here. You can't protect your weapon, you can't protect yourself, and you can't use it if you need to. So I wrote this law, 3-foot safety act, you have to stay back 3 feet. When I came down here to South Carolina, I met the head of the Senate in Georgia, and I testified there about passing this Halo bill. We made it now 25 feet because most law enforcement officers are taught keep a 21-foot reactionary gap between you and what potential threat. So now it's passed in Florida, it's passing in Georgia. We're getting it passed here. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett is helping me get it passed here, where you cannot come within 25 feet of a law enforcement officer. These phones can video from 25 feet away. You don't need to be here,
Right. We passed that similar law in Indiana.
So you have one.
We do. It went through our committee, and I tried to show some people some videos, and you've probably seen this. And I think this was with the Special Forces instructor on small weapons, knives, how he could close the distance of almost 20 feet within a second or two before a person could draw their weapon.
Yep.
And like you said, stand around all day, stand at your 20 feet, take your video, that's fine. But it's dangerous to the officer because there's no way you can watch who's around you, know if they're going to pull a knife or a gun or something like that when you're trying to do your job. They're hindering the job, and they can still have that right to video you, but at a safe distance. So,
and
yeah, we
could pass this on the federal level. Congress can pass a national Halo law, and the states will have to adopt it. They cannot override it and say, well, we'll make it 3 feet. They can make it further.
It'll save lives on both sides of those folks that are protesting or things like that. You're going to have less interaction when you see people getting an inch or two away, and then they slip and nudge. Now they've contacted that officer. When they can scream and yell all they want. That's why our country's great. You can say dumb things, you can scream things, but you need to stand back, and that doesn't de-escalate thing. It only escalates thing when you're shoving phones in people's faces and getting in their faces and hindering those operations. So it's safety on both sides, you can argue.
And you know how people can relate? When you're driving a car and you keep that safe distance between you and the person in front of you, and someone cuts in there, I don't care who it is, nobody sits there and says, oh, that was great. No, you get a little agitated, you get defensive because you created a safe space for you and someone took that away. Now picture a police officer who's just there trying to maintain order, having these people with bullhorns and whistles in their face. I grew up in the time when they had nightsticks. They called billy clubs.
Yeah.
And if you got too close to a cop, you got a whack, and you never did it again. And if you did get the whack as a kid, you didn't go home and tell your father because you'd get another one.
Exactly.
But there's just too much pressure put on law enforcement officers to be perfect. No one's perfect. And in those conditions, if we don't provide more protections, we're going to see more fatalities. But
no, I agree.
I'm glad you understand that. Another thing that we fight for in Veterans for America First, you look at TRICARE for life. You have TRICARE for life. It doesn't say TRICARE till you're 65. This is TRICARE for life. Now, when you hit, I think it's 65 now is when you go on Social Security, what do they shift you to? Medicare. And what happens with Medicare? You get premiums. Like, we need to say if you get TRICARE for life, or you're 100% service connected disabled, or whatever the percentage is to get TRICARE for life, that's what you keep. You should have to shift to Medicare. Then you get Medicare, then you have TRICARE for life, then you have another insurance. Make it simple for veterans. They went through enough. You have TRICARE for life, and that's what you keep. You don't have to have 1,000 different numbers in your head, to carry 1,000 different cards to present to doctors. We're making it too difficult for these people to get their care, No,
I agree 100%. We've actually looked at a TRICARE for life system on a federal level. I've been discussing with the Professional Firefighters Union, because that's one of the biggest hindrances we have is talking about public safety on that side. Is we have firefighters who die at a higher rate as far as with regards to cancer, things like that. They have no medical insurance when they retire, at least in the state of Indiana. And so you have people that shouldn't stay, and they immediately go on expensive insurance. So I'm looking at military folks, firefighters, police officers, those that they rose their hand, took an oath, and chose to basically take a more dangerous job at less pay because they want to serve their communities. And like you said, when they do that, then we should take care of them. when they can't take care of themselves anymore.
That's great. You're a perfect candidate for this position. Um, I know you're going to do everything in your power to keep our military the greatest fighting force on the planet.
Hmm.
Um, I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, I'm excited the direction, even in this last year, our armed forces, what the priorities are, being a war fighter again, not a social experiment. Because at
Yeah,
the end of the day, that's why we're there, to hopefully never be used. But when we are used, we should be the best. People should fear us. We should know how to, break things and blow things up. But I think a perfect example. I know the Venezuela thing may be controversial, but
not to me.
look at our individuals and how outstanding they were and what they did. By being the best and the best trained, not only do other countries now go, okay, wait a second, do we want to mess with these guys? But we were able to pull off a successful operation without a single casualty. I think that's huge because none of us want to see our brothers and sisters going over and getting killed. And we don't want to see endless stuff, but we go in. That's what I think people misunderstand about this. Donald Trump is obviously against long standing wars, but these are not that. We're going in, we're getting the job done, we're doing it within, a few hours, and we're pulling out. And it sends a big message and it deters people.
And I'll bet you the people who went in to Venezuela or went in and got Osama bin Laden, or I'm sure there was no DIA. I work for the DIA,
Yeah.
DEI in determining who's on those teams. They have to be the best of the best because if you start even with those types of units, those SMUs, people aren't going to fear them if they know they're not the best, if they know they're there because of demographics. Um,
100%.
no, they're feared because they are the best we have. Um, so that's good. That's good to hear. People need to fear us. And this Pete Hegseth, man, he's just calling it the way. Why are there two PT tests for male and female if we're doing the
Yeah.
same job?
Yeah, we don't have. I always said the enemy doesn't say, "Wait a second, guys, got to change tactics. We have a different gender."
Yeah.
No, we need to meet the standard. I've told people all day long, I don't care who's silver next to me, as long as they meet that standard, and not a lowered standard, but the high standard. So
I always
pretty
say,
simple.
I always say, I don't care the color of the gender as long as they can shoot that way and they can get to the fight
Well, I
because you're
look
not
back
looking at
to
them.
under the Biden administration, they tried to go after military folks. We're racist, we're radical, we're all those negative things, and then they did that independent study. About a year later, when the results came out, you didn't see them touting it because the results, if you saw, came out that said that the military personnel were, I think it was 7 times less sexist and racist than the rest of the country. Because as you understand, if you did your job well and you were awesome and you had our six, we don't care. Like you said, I don't care what color, what gender, who you are, you're the best at what you're doing, and that's all we care about.
So, what made you run for Congress?
Well, it's funny. I had always said my entire life I was not going to be one of these knucklehead politicians. I just wanted to serve. I've always served, I've helped, I've volunteered, but I didn't want to be this guy. And when the lines were redrawn about 5 years ago, my seat where I live now was an open seat, and I had some group come to me and ask me to run. And my kids are grown. 4 kids are all out there, one serving in the military. And it was kind of this perfect time. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll try this. Maybe I'll serve, see how I like it. Now, are all those frustrations there? Everything they say about politicians are true. And that is a frustrating part. But I have really enjoyed serving, fighting. And one of the biggest things I love to do, especially with veterans, because I've helped some Vietnam vets get some awards through our Senate offices, things like that, is constituent services. And there's so much that we can do to help our folks, especially the military folks. I just helped. He's a fire chief up in the district that couldn't get some VA benefits. I work for the Indiana guys. And so you can do so much outside of legislation that helps individuals right away, immediately. And which is your job. I mean, so I would say I spend the same amount, if not more time, helping constituents connect with government services they don't know about, um, more so than I do working on legislation, and I do both. And it was about 2.5 years ago, I had a group, Americans for Prosperity, know that this seat was probably going to be open. And based on my record in the House, the short record I had, in my history, they wanted me to run for office. And it was one of those things where I continued to serve. I've seen, like you, how the direction our country is going. And I know it's bad. I have people all the time ask me, are you nuts? Why do you want to go to DC? And I said, well, I get it's bad. I get it's nuts. But do you not want anybody good to go to DC and fight? And to me, that's where the fight is. Indiana has its issues like every other state, but we're a pretty good state, fairly conservative state, very friendly toward veterans. But I think the fight's in DC. I think we need more people that when we raise our hand and take that oath, it means something. And I think to individuals like you and I that took that oath, we were taking an oath to risk our lives, to be away from our families, to do things because we wanted to serve. And I tend to think civilians, and I don't mean that all military guys are the best or whatever. I'm a little biased, but I do think with some politicians that I've met that when they raise their hand and take that oath, I don't think it means anything to them. There's no sacrifice. There's no risk. They don't know what it truly is to sacrifice. And I think more of us that can go that know what sacrifice means, and to tell individuals or lobbyists that want us to push a certain agenda, we don't mind telling them to step off. We can get our money from somebody else. We're going to do what's right. And I think that you'll find that, if I could say this, intestinal fortitude more so with the military person than a civilian worrying about where they're going to get their next steak dinner or their donation or whatever. I think we need more people that will stand up and fight.
And you look at almost every one of them. I don't know the percentage, but they're millionaires after their first one or two terms. When I ran, because I have my full Army retirement, my VA, and a retirement from another job on Long Island, I was donating my whole salary from Congress. I also have a 501c3 called Veteran Recovery Coalition. I was donating it. I wasn't going there like you to make money. And that's what makes you different than a lot of these buffoons in the House, where they go in there, they know they have to run every 2 years. They get hooked up with a lobby, some lobbyist or a special interest group. They throw money at their account, their campaign account, and like, okay, I'm all right with not having to work my butt off to go get those small donations. I'm set for the next election, but now you owe them. That's what I think makes you different, makes a lot of veterans different. Not all of them. You look at Ted Lieu and Kinzinger and Crenshaw. I wouldn't trust those guys with with an apple core. They're just not trustworthy people. And just because you're a veteran doesn't make you trustworthy. It's how you conducted yourself in the service and when you get out. And I looked you up. I never give out an endorsement unless I look the person up and I research them. You've conducted yourself your entire life with that leadership, LDR, SHIP mentality, loyalty, duty, service, loyalty, duty, respect, self-service, honor, integrity, personal courage. And because you are who you are, you're getting our endorsement for your run for Congress this year, and you'll probably get it every year you ever run. So thank you for being who you are and stepping up again the third time, well, fourth time. Marines, Air National Guard, the State House, and now Congress.
Well, I appreciate it. I want to be held accountable. I say this to everybody that I meet, every constituent, every person who's endorsed me. And I know you have my personal number, and I have a feeling we're just getting to know each other, but I have a feeling if I do something stupid or maybe make a decision, you'll be calling me and ask me, what in the world am I thinking? And I want that, though. When I was commander, that's one thing I had at my senior staff was like, behind these closed doors, you can give me grief. You can yell at me. You can tell me why you think something's wrong. I want that input. I don't want an echo chamber around me. Because at the end of the day, I need to know, because I guarantee you, I had a person ask me one time, what can you guarantee me in Congress? And he had his notepad and pencil ready to go. And I said, I'll guarantee you two things. I guarantee you, number one, I'm going to screw something up. And number two, I'm going to learn from it. So that's all I can guarantee you. But I want to be held accountable.
And good senior NCOs know that. And they look for that in an officer. They look to see if you're willing to listen and take advice, take guidance, or if you just think, hey, I'm in charge, it's going to be my way. I got 2 years in this position, then I move up. But no, I did my research on you, and I'm fully confident that you're not going to be getting those phone calls about how you conduct yourself and what you push. The phone calls I'm sure I'm going to be sending to you will be more about, hey, I have this idea about something for veterans or law enforcement or military. Hey, what do you think? I think that's about all. You've got it all to be successful there, and hopefully, what you are rubs off on some of these knuckleheads there who just maybe they've never had good guidance. They've never had a father show them how to be a good man or a mother show them how to be a good, woman. I think you'll who you are will rub off on a lot of them, and maybe they'll straighten themselves out.
But I've seen an uptick in more and more veterans running for office. And like you said, they're not all perfect. Just because we're veterans doesn't make us perfect. But I do like the fact that those numbers are increasing again.
Yeah.
Because you look back after, the world wars, I think probably everybody had served. You saw that number go down and down and down through the years, especially during the Vietnam time frame where you had not a lot of folks. And I think I think you definitely do see a big difference in that type of legislation, how they conduct themselves. So I am excited to see more and more folks with service background starting to run again. And I hope to hopefully not only encourage, mentor those folks, but also try to get more people with that background possibly to run for office.
I agree. I couldn't agree more, man. I'm pretty pumped up, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you for running. And anything you need from us, you just let me know. I'm going to email you some bills that we put together. See what you think about them. They're
Okay.
all, how to give veterans more or let them keep what they have, and how to strengthen our military, protect our law enforcement.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
The pleasure, Colonel, was all mine. All mine, and I really mean that. This is Robert Cornicelli, National President for Veterans for America First. I'm here with Lieutenant Colonel Craig Haggard. He's running for Indiana's 4th Congressional District, and the honor today has been all mine, Colonel.
All right. Mine too. Thank you, sir.
You got
Appreciate
it.
all your work.
Take care.
God bless. Bye.